Hey carnivores, hope y'all are having a good Saturday evening like I am. I am enjoying this delicious ribeye steak. Actually, it's resting. I don't know if it's delicious yet. I just assume based on my previous experience, but hang on, I'll flip you around and let you see. Did you see? That looks good, doesn't it? Posting this, I'm filming this on Saturday, but I probably won't post it until probably Tuesday, because I've already posted two today. I've got one scheduled for tomorrow, and then Monday I'm going to the dentist, so I'm definitely going to post after that. And I'll have plenty of time. I'm taking a day off work, but I wanted to talk about my previous experience with the carnivore diet, the one that was back in 2016-ish. So, and what happened? There just weren't the influencers out there at the time. I think Kelly Hogan was doing YouTube videos. Oh my God, that's so good. But there weren't a lot of other people to watch, and none of them were talking about all the healing benefits of the carnivore diet. So, I've actually seen Darlene Michaud. She was doing the carnivore diet, and I don't think she talked about any health benefits except how she wasn't how she didn't crave other food, and it wasn't even considered a health benefit. It was just a fact. While she was eating all this carnivore stuff, she wasn't craving other food, and she doesn't really post about it. She's not a carnivore influencer, I don't guess you would say. She has a channel where she talks about other stuff and carnivore sometimes, because it's just a part of her life, you know. So at the time, I joined some Facebook groups, and that was where people, as far as I knew, were learning about carnivore at the time. But I should go way back to like 2002. I was seriously keto at the time, and that's actually when I had been unable to conceive for a long time, like 14 years, and for most of that time I hadn't really been trying to get pregnant. I had one child. I'm like, okay, I guess this is all I'm gonna get, but I hadn't been trying not to. So I went on a very low carb diet and was just eating healthy stuff. And I remember, so I only lost like 40 pounds, but my periods started getting regular again because they had always been just crazy messed up, you know, irregular length of time, irregular time between them. I'd had a doctor tell me I probably wasn't ovulating, and that was a reproductive endocrinologist. I hadn't gone to him for fertility things because, like I said, we really hadn't planned to have a baby, and I just, because of that, I didn't think it was very likely to happen. And I always joke that that's not a very good birth control. But anyway, so I was on low carb for, this lasted for about 7-8 months, and I lost 40 pounds, and I got surprise pregnant, and have a beautiful, beautiful baby boy who's 21 years old now. The light of my life for sure. But that was, you know, clearly this has been going on for a long time. So it was in this this was before Facebook and before YouTube. So we were using this online board, just like a message board. And I can't even remember what it was called. It was just something like really obvious, like lowcarb.com or something like that. And, you know, they had different boards for different varieties of low carb or ketogenic. And I remember a couple of things. I thought it was really funny. Stuff that was considered really weird back then is pretty much normal now. Like one of them was the warrior diet. And what that was 1 meal a day. And people, you know, talked about how it's just not doable, just not sustainable. That's how you would fast for 23 hours. And then in 1 hour a day, you could eat. I mean, for people who were not low carb, you could eat whatever you wanted. I mean, if you wanted to go eat a tub of ice cream, obviously, that wasn't recommended for people who were striving for a healthy lifestyle, but you certainly could. And then the other one was 0 carb, and that was also considered very fringe. That, as far as I know, there was nobody in the group who did that very consistently. Some people maybe tried it for a little bit, but it was considered extremely fringe and not necessarily healthy. But it was talked about because it was, you know, it had its place in the space. And again, I don't even think it had its own board because nobody would have been using it. But that's where the first time I heard about the original Carnivore, who was the bear, Owsley Stanley, I think is his name. That guy who was a carnivore for decades, who only ate steak and ended up dying at the age of 76 in a car accident. I heard about him, and again, he was considered very fringe, but he was also a very controversial figure because he was a sound tech for the Grateful Dead. He also made LSD. I believe he manufactured it and sold it. So he was considered, you know, probably to be a bit flaky because of that, and wasn't taken seriously in most things. But, you know, reportedly his health was great, so he was more of a curiosity. That's the first time I heard of 0 carb, but at the time it wasn't, and again, that was in about 2002, but at the time it wasn't promoted by anybody. So fast forward again to like 2017-ish, and I saw Darlene, who was trying this, and that's when I started trying it for several months, and I couldn't make it work for me because I was still doing dairy, and as I mentioned before, I could eat my weight in cheese. I would put 2 cups of shredded cheese on top of anything, and also heavy cream. And I mean, I could drink a cup of that stuff a day. And aside from that, was having diet sodas. So maybe for those reasons, it just didn't clear out my gut microbiome enough so that I was able to experience that real freedom from, you know, constant food thoughts and things. So went to Facebook, and I would read about it there. And I joined 3 different groups, and I'm not going to name them. You may or may not have been in those Facebook groups that were around back in 2016, 2017. But and not the overall group population, but just the like the vibe of those groups was so obnoxious that I ended up, unfollowing them. And I want to describe what made me turn them off altogether. But I did have some influence in those groups for some length of time, because I introduced cooking bacon in a deep pan. I described it, and I had never heard of anybody doing that before. I'm not gonna claim that nobody has ever had that idea on their own, but I mentioned it in one of those groups, and I see people doing that today. And my explanation was, at the time, I just dump it in a big pot and stir it periodically until it's as done as I want, and that way it doesn't splatter everywhere. And I said, it's not like I'm trying to eat it laid out flat on a sandwich. I'm eating bacon in piles, so it works out perfect. And another thing, let me grab this little sticky note. You're going to have to listen to a story about this, because you've probably seen this before. Something like this, it's not exactly this because I'm not looking at it, and I don't still have it. I mean, it's probably still in one of those groups wherever I posted it. But there's a graph that goes around that tells you what healing is like versus what weight loss is like. And it looks kind of like this. And I designed this and posted it in one of the groups. And other people still use it today. And I don't care. I think it's really cool. And whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, I made that. And I'll tell you the story about what prompted me to make this. Or what I had seen recently, right before I designed it, was I was watching probably Cosmos. That's that show that the more recent one that Neil deGrasse Tyson does. I think it was on Cosmos. It was definitely Tyson. He was walking a dog along a beach, and he was walking a straight line across the beach, and the dog was on the end of a leash, and the dog was just going all over the place, back and forth and sniffing around and having a good old time. So and that was Dr. Tyson's explanation of this straight line that I'm walking is climate. This wavy line, or this irregular line that the dog is tracing, is weather. So I use that as a metaphor to describe this straight line going up diagonally. That's my overall health and well-being. This wavy line, it represents my weight going up and down, symptoms coming and going, just all kind of stuff. That's how I feel from day to day. That's the wavy line. My health overall, that's the straight, the one that's steadily trending upwards. So yeah, I shared that in one of those groups. But I mean, eventually I just couldn't tolerate the moderators and the people who were running it. So all of these groups had a long list of rules that you had to read and agree to before you went in there. They went beyond the normal. Be nice to everybody. Don't be a jerk. Don't share what's in this group. It was more than that. It was like what you could and could not post, etc. So in one of the groups, somebody asked one time, said, I've had heartburn really bad and I don't know what to do about it. And I said something like, I drink pickle juice for that. And another, for some reason I mentioned mustard. I don't know why. I don't think it was related to heartburn, but it was in the post. And I had somebody, one of the moderators, come and said, we do not recommend vinegar. No, we do not recommend pickle juice and mustard in this channel. And I'm like, my bad, I retracted my recommendation. But I mean, all of them had different rules about what you could post, and I was not about to go read a 13-page manifesto before I posted in any one of these channels. And I'm just like, this is not for me. Clearly, these people are not my people. So I unfollowed all of them just to save myself the headache of accidentally saying something that was against the rules. Shame on me. And anyway, and I don't blame that for my failure to do Carnivore right at the time. It just, that's part of the reason that I didn't feel like I belonged. You know, there was no family. Not for me anyway. I tried and wasn't up to snuff for the elitist, obnoxious carnivore community at the time. So I just tried to do it on my own, still doing stuff that was not great for me, and eventually ended up failing after about 7 months. I mentioned before that I don't remember having any serious health benefits, but at the time I did not have any serious ailments. I probably lost 40 or 50 pounds during the time that I was on it. Eventually ended up gaining all that back, but I was looking for some pictures and a journal that I'd kept at the time, and I couldn't find the journal, but I did find some pictures, and I had this white bump on my eyelid. I'm trying to think what size it was. Probably about the size of like a pinhead, not a metal pinhead, but a plastic, round pinhead. And it was just this white, maybe cholesterol bump, I think. That went away after about the 90 days of doing carnivore that I was doing. So that is an interesting benefit that I had. Also mentioned that I had been being short of breath at the time, and that went away. But I don't remember any mental health benefits. But, but maybe they were, and I just didn't notice. I don't know, maybe I wasn't struggling as much at the time, because after that, my health did steadily decline until I was a mess. My steak is still warm, so I'm gonna eat this before it gets cold. And whatever night this is, or whatever day this is that you're seeing this, I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of your week. And I will see you in the next